Hey guys, insight number 3. I'm sorry, number 2 went a bit long. I hope it'll post to Instagram as real. Should do. Anyway, might have to re-record that one button sticker, but YouTube's got the original, guys, so cheers to you. Alright, 2 Timothy 3 and 4 is keep the faith. Now there's some verses in here that I will write in the notes to really look at how we can do that. But one of my favorites I just want to mention is at the beginning of chapter 1, because I'm not going to talk about this in great detail. First of all, he talks off, talking to Timothy about, look, I know you're of great faith. Recall to remembrance that great faith, because I saw it in your mother and I saw it in your grandmother. So these gifts can be generational. I would like to think that I hold the faith of my grandmothers and my grandfathers, even though my grandfather, like one of my grandfathers, was never like officially Christian. He definitely had spiritual gifts, and he definitely was living gospel values. So, you know, I would like to think that I can emulate these generational gifts. And even beyond that, there's great-grandparents I never met, I don't know, and some of them had spiritual gifts, and I have some of the same spiritual gifts, which does prove that some of these gifts can be generational. And I don't know that it's built into the DNA. I think it depends on the spirit into the body, but they can be generational, especially faith, because we're talking about spiritual gifts, how we talked about them before, and actually there's a whole lot more of them than you would probably think. So the faith that someone has can be passed down. May skip generations. Depends on who brought you up. Depends how much interaction you had with people. Yeah. But gifts can be generational. So that I really loved. And he says to stir up the gift in verse 6 of chapter 1. I love that. Stir up the gift. So, you know, think of all the sediment at the bottom and give the bottle a shake a bit and get that gift going. 7, I've highlighted the whole thing because I love this so much. This is just such a reminder of us to keep going and to keep the faith. It says, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Because how many times do we feel fear? Fear doesn't come from God. Fear doesn't come from Jesus. Fear comes from Satan and humanity and being human. So God doesn't give us fear. God gives us power, love, and a sound mind. Now there's mental illnesses out there, and I have some. Some days I don't really have a sound mind, but I know that I can and that I will again. Yeah, some days, like today's good. 2 days ago, not such a sound mind. So, not that I'm needing of medication, but there's some people that do, and that's fine. But what they mean by sound mind is that we can think for ourselves. We have that opportunity to do so. We can make decisions based on our opinions and our choices. Like, we're not dictated to constantly, and well, even if we are, we can still make the choice whether to listen to it or not. So we have agency. So he's given us the gift of agency and our choices, even if it's just simply a choice of how we react to it, because that's all we can do. It's completely out of our control. But sound mind to do that, how we react, power and love. And if you look at the footnotes, it's courage. Courage. He gives us the gift of courage. I'm like, oh, thank you, because I need that. So I love that. But let's go over, because we're wasting time again. Well, not wasting it, we're just off topic a little. Keep the faith, chapters 3 and 4. So, remember, again, this was written probably, I would say, about a year to 2 years different than 1 Timothy. There's a bit of a gap in there. Not a huge one, but enough. So it's more like, what do they call it? Anyway, there's more apostasy and more hatred towards church members, and some leave, and there's still confusion around cultural beliefs and the gospel. So in the first 7 verses, he's talking again, not just of that day, but of our day, and like what cultural beliefs there are. So it says, men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. Does that not sound like a lot of people these days? like at least one of those you'd tick, right? Without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, fierce, despisers of those that are good. I'm like, yeah, I've seen some of them people. I don't really mix with them, don't know a lot of them, but I know of some. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. And I'm like, yeah, I've met one of them. He was my grandmother's pastor. Met him at her bedside in the hospital, and he said something, and I challenged it with a scripture, and he didn't even know what I was talking about. And I'm like, yep, you're all acting the part, but you should know that scripture. It's not exactly an obscure one. It's one that we sort of all know from all religions. It was biblical. It's pretty clear. Still don't know what I was talking about. Having the appearance of godliness, but actually just in it for the, I don't know, easy job, or the attention he got from people. I don't know. Doesn't mean that he's evil, but he's definitely not of God. I would hope he becomes that way, because honestly, a lot of people actually really liked him, and he is very likable, but he could do better. Okay, and just goes on there and just saying, they're learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth because they're looking in the wrong places. And then actually in verse 8 I quite like too, he says, now as Jannes and Jambres withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate concerning the faith. So just as the two magicians withstood Moses and stood there and said, because their magic came from Satan, we're still not going to believe you. We don't think that you're more powerful. You've counteracted everything we've done, but we still think you're full of it, And it's like, well, to anyone watching, kind of obvious, but they're bullies and they pick on other people. So just keep an eye out for that. So there's a whole lot of that going on there. But 14 through 17 is just where the gem is in chapter 3. Continue in the things which thou hast learned. This is how to live the gospel. Continue in the things which thou hast learned and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them. So where did you learn them from? Did you trust those people? Did you learn them from a prophet? Good idea. Do that. Learn them from the scriptures? Good idea. Do that. He says to Timothy, from a child you've known the Holy Scriptures, and, they make you wise through salvation, through faith in Jesus Christ. That they educate you well. And all Scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. So yes, there's going to be ongoing revelation. Yes, there's going to be more Scripture that you can debate and come to a conclusion, but do so prayerfully. There's also eventually, which he didn't say here, there's going to be wonderful conference talks twice a year, which are also Scripture. And not all of it is going to be perfect, but it's going to help you. And that the man of God may be perfect, through furnished unto all good works. So, one of the most correct books of Scripture is the Book of Mormon, but again, it says most correct. And even Moroni apologizes in there for the lack of language to describe what went on. And again, I'll say I actually appreciate the lack of language because I can understand it a whole lot better. So I really want to tell Moroni that face to face, although I think he's probably getting it these days, and we're all saying, actually, thanks, dude, because your way of putting it makes it so easy for us to get. Probably even a little easier than the Doctrine and Covenants, because that's old-timey speak. Whereas the Book of Mormon's actually pretty easy to understand. And I think a lot of that's got to do with our relationship with Christ and the Spirit to help us do that. But still, the lack of fancy language, Moroni, not a problem. Seriously. Okay, so chapter 4 is really good. There's some scripture in here that you'll really recognize. He says in 6 that his departure is at time, it's at hand. He knows he's going to die. And in 7, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. So that's one that really stands out. And then he goes on in 17 and 18 to talk about, notwithstanding the Lord stood by me and strengthened me, and the Lord will deliver me from every evil work. And it's just beautiful. And 22 is amazing as well. He goes on to wish that for other people. So I'm going to write some of those in the notes. Have a look at those verses, because they are the ones to strengthen you through whatever storm you're facing. Those are the ones that will solidify your foundation, help you to know Christ, and just know that he's with you. So have a look at those. I don't want to go over time again. So just beautiful. And, Read these with your own challenges and fears in mind. Find strength to keep faith in all circumstances, because that's so important. And most importantly, don't give up, which we're going to go on and talk about. Don't give up. These are the verses that will help you to not give up. So hold strong to them. All right. Stick around. We're going to go over to Titus. I will see you there, guys.